thing. But anyway, I thought it's 1 + 1 = 2. So in any case, so that Shaykh Sam at that time felt that this verse representing him. I know another person, for a month he was sick. And finally he was able to go to the masjid. And he went to the masjid and he read قول الله تعالى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not abandon you. He was relieved because all this time he thinks that Allah doesn't like him. That's why he's not going to the masjid. That's what reflecting. Reflecting is not to make your own tafsir, not to make a new interpretation to the Quran. Reflecting is not to make a fiqh rules or a aqidah issue out of the verse. That's not your job. That's principles of tafsir, interpreting the Quran. إن تفسير القرآن أعلى أنواع العلوم. The highest level of science, Islamic science, is tafsir. Can anyone tell me why? Why it is the highest level of ilm? That's the peak of Islamic knowledge. Can anybody think why? The highest. Yes? But you can say about hadith, about seerah. Riwayat Quran is the highest. The peak, yes? Kalamullah. طيب, somebody said hadith Qudsi also, the hadith it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also. Not the wording, but it's still very good. So from a perspective, it's the highest knowledge because it's related to the highest and the most supreme wording, which is the words of Allah. Very good. So from that perspective, it is the most important, the highest knowledge. But from another perspective, Al-Quran, in order for you to be able to interpret the Quran, you must master so many other sciences. You must master so many other sciences. One of them is ilm al-hadith. Because in order for you to understand the Quran, you need to understand hadith. The narrations. What is authentic and what's weak. What is abrogating and what has been abrogated. The Arabic language. The Arabic literature. You need to understand the pronunciation, correct pronunciation. You need to understand the fiqh, the usul al-fiqh. Every ilm is actually under ilm al-tafsir. That's why it never made sense to me when I hear that someone says, I'll start with ilm al-tafsir. Ya Habibi, you're just a beginner of talib al-ilm. How can you start with ilm al-tafsir? Ilm al-tafsir, this is something you reach to it after you master so many others. After you build the foundations in so many other fields. Going back to the importance of this ilm, also it is so dangerous to speak about the Quran from your own opinion. To interpret, to say that's what Allah meant, or what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. هذا خطير. That's why, even though the hadith is weak, but the meaning is agreed upon. من قال بالقرآن برأيه فقد أخطأ ولو أصاب. If you say something from your own opinion about to interpret the Quran in your own way, you're wrong even if your interpretation is correct. Even if you got it lucky and you got it correct, you're wrong. Because the methodology that you interpreted based on ignorance, not based on knowledge. And also there is another narration, also there is weakness in it, but the ulama agreed upon that and commonly reported. قال من قال بالقرآن برأيه فقد كفر. Whoever made an opinion about a verse from his own kiddah, he became kafir or committed an act of kufr. Which it means a minor one. To make it so serious. No doubt, making assumption about the Quran or interpret the Quran not based on knowledge is one of the greatest sin in Islam. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. To say about Allah what you don't know. That's one of the greatest sins. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh said, what kind of life it is, what kind of person I am if I would say something in the Quran from my own opinion. And that's Abu Bakr, the one who mastered Arabic, the one who witnessed the revelation, the one who in company of the Prophet ﷺ, the one who knows the hadith. I just don't make my own opinion about it. That's Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh. I'm saying this because we're living in a time, Nasrallah al-Afiyah, where tafsir al-Quran became something that everybody easily say whatever they wants about it. And so mufassir. And you look at what kind of mufassir he is. And you find his background is, he was a reporter, he was just generally educated in Islam, he doesn't even speak Arabic, and he became mufassir. That's dangerous. And this, even if it does things good, in the long term, it will be misleading in Islam. And those people, their bid'ah and their mistakes is very dangerous and large. So that's to differentiate between tafsir and reflection and contemplating. Contemplating is for everybody. Tafsir only for the ulama. And even with contemplating in the verses in the Quran, it has to be guided, has to be in the line of the Arabic language. You can't make something completely out of line. And you cannot interpret a verse based on a terminology that was made later on. For example, in Arabic, what we call watch. Sa'a. Nobody can say, the Quran would say sa'a, it means watch. You can't do that. That doesn't mean, that's just wrong. Oh, wallahi, reflections. What's a reflection? Allah talk about Apple Watch in the Quran. No reflection. Reflection has to be something that makes sense. There is a root for it in Arabic language and so forth. Al-Quran a'zam ayati. The greatest verses of the Quran that speaks about Allah. Then the one that speaks about the rules, the ahkam. Then the rest is the third level. These are, ulama rahimahullah put as the categories from the highest to the middle and to the general. And all of them are perfect, but some of them higher than others. ما ننسخ من آية أو ننسها نأتي بخير منها أو مثله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He abrogated a verse, He brings something better than it or similar to it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أحسن الكتاب أحسن الكلام كلامه سبحانه. The best of the speech is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's speech. So all of them, it's great. Some of them greater than others. As the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لِيَهَنَكَ الْعِلْمُ يَا أَبَا الْمُنذِرِ Ubay ibn Ka'b. Know that the best verse in the Quran is the verse of Al-Kursi. What's the surah that I choose for you today? Or the thing that I want to reflect upon today? It is a small surah, but it is filled with ilm, filled with knowledge. And it is surah that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, it was reported by Tabarani, that Abi Medina Ad-Darimi said, كان الرجلان من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Sometimes two of the Prophet companions, when they meet each other, when about to leave each other, they will recite to each other Surah Al-Asr. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ until they meet again. الشافعي رحمه الله said, لو تدبر هذه الناس هذه السورة لوسعتهم. Shafi'i said, if you reflect well upon this surah, it will be sufficient for you. It will guide you in your whole life. So let's see why Shafi'i rahimahullah have said that. And it starts with, I'm not going to go into Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, even though just for the record, every surah starts with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim except Surah Tawbah. And every al-ulama rahimahullah said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, all the scholars, no difference of opinion, all the scholars agree that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim part of one surah, which is An-Naml. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِنَّهُ مِنْ سُلَيْمَانَ, it's from Sulaiman, وَإِنَّهُ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ, the letter that came from Balqis. But Al-Fatiha, there is debate. Some scholars said it is part of Al-Fatiha, some said no. It's all the ulama said it's a verse, but either by itself or it count as one of the surah. And what I lean towards, it is a verse by itself. Why? Because the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said about Surah Tabarak, it is 30 verses. And if you count Bismillah as one of the Surah Tabarak, it became 31. Okay? So that shows you that it is a separate verse by itself. But what's so unique that I want you to reflect upon, that every surah starts, except Tawbah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. That to emphasis on the greatest quality of Allah, which is Ar-Rahmah. That Allah, that we worship, is very merciful. So that means everything that He asks us to worship Him with, it will lead to mercy in this dunya and the akhirah. Nobody ever think that the legislation of Sharia is not merciful. Don't ever think that way, because it comes from the most merciful subhanahu wa ta'ala. But again, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it has its own lessons and reflections. مرة الرازي قال في بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم 10,000 مسألة. الرازي said, الرازي يعني he likes this. Sometimes he overboard and overdo it. رحمه الله وعفى الله عنه. الرازي has a book of tafsir. It's called Tafsir al-Kabir, a great book of, يعني a grandiose book of tafsir. He said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim has 10,000 issues. 10,000 points I can mention related to Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sometimes he goes really way overboard. But anyway, wal-asr. Allah says, wal-asr. Al-waw, wa al-asr. Allah making an oath with al-asr. And I want you, one of the rules of reflections in the Quran, anytime you read the Quran and Allah make an oath with something, pay attention. Because it means something so important. Question: why Allah will make an oath? Does He need to make, I make an oath for you to believe me. Why Allah will make an oath with something? But we believe Him without Him saying Wallahi or making an oath. You know, we're not like the kids, Wallahi, Wallahi, believe me. That's right. Why Allah will make an oath with something? And sometimes He make an oath with multiple things. والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها. All these why would Allah making so many qasams, so many oaths like this? Do I need Allah to make an oath for me to believe Him? No. But so why Allah will make an oath? For two reasons, two benefits. One, to know that this issue is so important. What He making an oath of? Extremely important. He got your attention. Number two is to show you the value of the thing that He making an oath with. He wants you to pay attention not to the issue, but to the thing that Allah making an oath with. That means something very special, and you have to treat it special. So one of the rules of reflection, anytime Allah make an oath with something, immediately say, what's the uniqueness about this thing that Allah making an oath with? Wal-Fajr. So now I reflect. Al-Fajr is something important. Salat al-Fajr, the time of Fajr. You see? So immediately make you pay attention to it. So here, wa al-Asr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes an oath with whatever He wants from His creation. But we as a creation, we only allowed to make an oath with Allah and His names and attributes. We cannot make an oath with any one of the creation. No prophet, no messengers, no angels, no creation. No, I swear on my mother's grave. No, I swear on the Ish. All this is not allowed in Islam. والحسين وعلي والنبي, you're not allowed to make. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من حلف بغير الله فقد. Simple and straightforward. If you make an oath with other than Allah, you have committed a shirk, a form of shirk. And it's minor. It's not something to take the person out of fold of Islam. Because when Umar made an oath with his fathers, Nabi Sallallahu told him that, and he repented to Allah, he did not enter Islam from beginning. So that means he didn't leave the fold of Islam. It means it's a minor shirk. But it is something serious. How serious? Listen to me. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu explaining to you how serious this is. Question, in order for you to appreciate what Ibn Mas'ud said. What's the rule in making an oath with Allah's names over something which is lie? Is it something dislike, haram, or a major sin? I said, Wallahi, I swear by Allah, and I'm lying. What do you guys think? Is it something dislike, something forbidden, haram, or something major sin? Major sin. The Prophet ﷺ said, اليمين الغموس هي التي تغمس صاحبها في النار. There is an oath if you make and you were lying, it will dip you in the hellfire. It will take you to the bottom of the hellfire, which is you swear by Allah or you're making oath with Allah's name while you are lying. So it's a major sin. Listen carefully. Ibn Mas'ud said, لأن أحلف بالله كاذبا أهون من أن أحلف بغير الله صادقا. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, to make an oath with Allah's name, lying, which is a major sin, easier than making an oath with other than Allah's names, even if I'm saying the truth. So that means that making an oath with other Allah's name, worse than this major sin. طيب. والعصر. What's العصر? هذه من أهم قواعد التفسير. One of the principles of tafsir, you might have multiple interpretation for the word. لا بأس بشرطين. There is no problem to have multiple interpretation to the word, what it means, but with the following two conditions. أولا أن يكون المعنى له أصل في لغة العرب. That these interpretations have roots, acceptable linguistically. Number two, أن هذا التفسير, this interpretations, لا تضرب بعضها ببعض. يعني it does not lead to contradiction in the Quran. They all fall in an acceptable. They might have a different interpretation, but they don't contradict each other. They don't negate each other. يعني no one said that means haram and that means it's must, wajib. You can't do that. You can't interpret the Quran this way. You might say dislike or haram, but you cannot say haram and it's wajib at the same time. That's contradicting each other. One of the principles also in Quran, the tafsir al-Quran and reflections, when there is a verse has multiple meaning, we apply to all of them. We reflect upon all these meanings. So let's explore what's al-asr mean. Wal-asr. So we know what's the importance of it. قيل العصر هو الزمان. It is the time. The time. Allah making an oath with the concept of time. And الزمان, the time, is one of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which is me and you, sometimes we don't realize this blessing. Do you know when you're going to appreciate time? When you run out of time. One time, I had a cyst. I went to the doctor and he said, this is serious, Waleed. That might be a very bad type of cancer. And that's very deadly. Man, he scared me. I walk out from his clinic and I look at the world through the needle's hole. Like the life becomes, I felt like my time shrink. That week was, alhamdulillah, was nothing. But that, I still remember that week. Every moment means so much to me. Every second. Sometimes we don't realize the value of time. دقات قلب المرء قائلة له إن الحياة دقائق وثواني. Every heartbeat telling you that your life is made of seconds and minutes, not days and months. Seconds and minutes. You want me to prove to you in a practical format that your life is made of seconds and minutes, not days and months. Now, how old are you? 20, 30, 50, 60, whatever your age is. I want you to remember the last 10 years. You don't remember a month. You don't remember a day. You don't remember year. You remember moments of your life. That's what your life actually made of. Seconds of your life. And it's so important to keep the time. So that's why don't waste it. People are speaking of killing time, while in reality, time slowly killing them. Time is a blessing from Allah. Appreciate that ni'mah before you lose it. So this verse makes me reflect upon the time that I have. Am I taking full advantage of it? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you time, be grateful. Don't waste it on Netflix. Don't waste it on games. Don't waste it on sleeping. Don't waste it in, slacking around. Don't waste it in arguing. Don't waste it in things that's not going to benefit you. That's ni'mah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you time. قال بعض أهل العلم, some other interpretation for al-asr, it's not that time, your time. هي مدة حياتك أنت. The time that Allah have given you specifically for you. The 20 years, the 50 years, the 60 years, the 80 years. That's another ni'mah. Not that time as a general concept. Your own time in this life. Make sure it's worth it. That's a ni'mah. Allah gifted you certain amount of time to spend on this earth. You need to start thinking, this amount of time that I'm living on this earth, what I'm adding to it. Because I'll tell you, if you don't add anything to this life, you're just an addition. There is a famous mathematics, you can tell he's a mathematic from the example that he gave. His name is Al-Khwarizmi, a famous Muslim mathematic. He said something interesting. He said, your value is like the zeros. Your value is like the zeros. Where you put the zero, it makes a difference. If you have 1 and you put 1 0 after 1, it becomes 10. You put 2 zeros, 100. 3 zeros. Now take the 3 zeros and put it after the number. 1 stay, 1. You put 0, 0, 0, 1, that's 1. 100 0 to the left is still 1. Where you stand, what you stand for, that's what makes you valuable. So you have to appreciate the ni'mah that Allah giving you. When my daughter comes to me and said to me, especially the older ones, the teenager ones, Baba, I'm 18. Or my son said, Baba, I've turned 18 today. I said, you know what that means? He said, yeah, gift. I said, okay, what else? I don't know. And I like to say this to teenagers. Do you know that you are 1 year closer to your death? I'm not trying to ruin it for you, son, but that's reality. You're actually 1 year closer to your end. That's what your birthday really means. I think that's my theory. That's why Muslims in the early generations never celebrated birthdays. I'm always think birthday is a terrifying. It's a culture of a Western society and a culture that does not think about the akhirah actually. Our culture in the Western life is not thinking about the akhirah. We only think about the dunya. That's why celebrating birthday. I'm not here to say haram or halal. That's not the point. But my point, I think that's my theory, that you never find in the old days ever any concept of celebrating a birthday. Because the reality is birthday. When you look at some of the ulama, said, how old are you? He said 60. He said, for the last 60 years, you've been traveling to Allah. You're almost there. For the last 28 years, you've been traveling to your end. That's something to reflect upon. My own life, how old I am. Allah had given me 20 years, 50 years, 10 years, 13 years, 15 years, 18 years. What do you have done with it? What's your value today if you leave? What you will leave behind you? It's not really about what you have gained. It's about what you have contributed. That's why they said the difference between fame and greatness is that fame is based on what you gain, but greatness is based on what you contribute, what you give, what you leave behind. That would make you a great person. That's the time that Allah given you. طيب قيل المراد بالعصر صلاة العصر. It was said al-asr that Allah says here, it means salat al-asr that you just prayed. طيب what's the reflection here? That means salat al-asr is very, very important salah. And Allah made that distinguish clearly when He said, وَحَافِظُوا عَلَى الصَّلَوَاتِ وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. Care to perform the salah and salat al-asr. Specifically Allah mentioned. And the middle salah is not my interpretation, it's not Abu Bakr interpretation, it's not Umar interpretation, it's the interpretation of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, Salatul Wusta hiya Salatul Asr. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the authentic hadith, he said the middle salah is Salat al-Asr. So then ask yourself, if this is the case, if Allah make an oath with this salah, how much do we care about Salat al-Asr? How much we prayed on time? يقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم المنافق, the hypocrite, is the one who will delay Salat al-Asr until the end. Until the end. And right before sun goes down, he goes ينقرها كنقر الغراب أو الديك. He goes and pray very fast like the chicken, like picking the seeds from the ground. How many times I did that? How many times I missed Salat al-Asr? من أجمل ما قرأت, one of my favorite narration from Ibn Sirin, أن ابن سيرين رحمه الله كان يقول إذا صليت الصلاة انتظرتها من غد لا تعوضني عنها التي تليها. What is he trying? What he's saying here? Ibn Sirin said that each salah has a flavor. Not another one will replace it. Like Al-Asr has a special flavor. I can't wait for tomorrow to pray Asr again. It's not the same like Maghrib. It's not the same like Dhuhr. It's not the same like Fajr. Fajr has its own flavor. Isha has its own flavor. I just can't wait for tomorrow to pray this salah again. Does Salat al-Asr have a special flavor for you? Do you read Quran in it? Do you care for it? Do you pray it in time? Do you pray it in congregation? And subhanAllah, it is interesting. A lot of people get tired, busy, distracted, especially when Asr is so early or so late. During some certain season, in winter or in summer. And missed easily. يقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم شغلونا عن صلاة العصر قاتلهم الله ملأ الله قبورهم نارا. They distracted us until Asr, time gone. And he was so mad at those disbelievers who were engaged in war with them. He said, may Allah curse them. He was so angry because he was very upset because he missed Salat al-Asr sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or almost missed Salat al-Asr. Another meaning من عجيب أيضا التفسير قالوا العصر هو وقت صلاة العصر ليست الصلاة نفسها. One of the interpretation of the al-Asr, it means the time of Asr. The time of Asr is basically when the adhan, let's make it simple, لما يكون ظل الشيء مثليه, when the adhan al-Asr called until Maghrib. From adhan al-Asr until Maghrib. That time is very special. That's why Allah make an oath with that period of time in the day. So that means that period of time in the day is very special. Oh, I didn't know that. Now Allah paying your attention to the importance of that period of time. هنا قاعدة مهمة في باب الفضائل. and important rules العلماء and الفقهاء mention. فضل الزمان لا يلزم منه تخصيص عبادة. Not because of the virtue of time, this time is very special. It means that there is a specific act of worship to be done during that period of time. يعني for instance, the Prophet ﷺ said, قال آخر ليلة في رمضان, the last night in Ramadan is a night where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frees so many people from hellfire. Yet we not ordained ولا يشرع لنا to pray Taraweeh in that night, the night of Eid. Not because special, it means they have to make a specific ibadah. Some people think because that's a very special time, I have to make salah. No, for example, mid of Sha'ban, it's a very special night, but in Nabi Sallallahu never ordained for us to make a specific ibadah, a specific dua in it, or a specific thing. People made up salat called ragha, but it's not from the sunnah. And Nabi Sallallahu said that the last hour in Jumu'ah, the last period of time before Maghrib, which is we are living right now, or about to live it, is special. But yet there is no salah in it. There is no dua, specific dua in it. There is no specific Quran to be read in it. لا يلزم تخصيص عبادة معينة, even though it's a virtue. Like after Salat al-Fajr, all the way to sunrise, special time. Yet you're not allowed to pray. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من صلى الفجر فلا يصلي حتى تشرق الشمس. When you pray Fajr, you're not allowed to pray until the sun rises. You follow? So what can I do during that period of time? From Asr until Maghrib. I prayed Asr. What I do, Shaykh? This is the time where you make dua. You make dhikr. You read Quran. You stay in the masjid. A time where you avoid haram, because the sins are greater if it's done during the time which is special. طيب. Al-Asr. How many meanings so far? 4. More? قيل العصر هو الزمان الذي عاشه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Al-Asr, it is the time of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, the period of time that he lived, the 63 years. So what that means to us? It is important to start to study that period of time. That's the most important time in history. That makes us reflect upon the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. لذلك لم يكن عبث, يقول ابن سعد في الطبقات, كانوا يعلمون أبناءهم مغازي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وسيرة كما يعلمونهم السورة من القرآن. Ibn Sa'd in his book At-Tabaqat, he said that the successors and the companions used to teach their children, and the successor used to teach their children, the life of the Prophet ﷺ, the history of the Prophet ﷺ, the life story of the Prophet ﷺ, what happened to him, his journeys, his battle, everything had happened to the Prophet ﷺ. The same way they teach their children the surah from the Quran. So, Wal Asr here, it's an invitation for you to study that period of time, to reflect upon the seerah of the Prophet. ومن عجيب سيرة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, السيرة عندي من أشبه ما تكون بالقرآن من وجه. The seerah of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, there is so much similarity between the seerah and the Quran from the following perspective. القرآن يقرأه العالم. Quran read by the scholar, student of knowledge, the lame Muslim, the average Muslim, the educated Muslim, the not educated Muslim. All of them read the Quran, enjoy it, reflect upon it, move by it, and connect to it. Right? The seerah of the Prophet, the same thing. The scholar read it, the student of knowledge read it, the average Muslim read it, the ignorant and the learned and the student of knowledge, and everybody, the old and the young, read it and they connect to it. And they relate to it. Another perspective where similarity between the Quran and Sirah. Al-Quran, مهما قرأته, كل ما تقرأ القرآن, Every time you repeat the verse, you read the same surah, the same story, you connect to it, you drive new lessons. Oh, I didn't pay attention to this before. That's so interesting. How many times you heard Surah Al-Asr? And now you get to learn new things. How many times you said Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim? I never thought about this point before. And it لا تنقضي عجائبه. No end, there's endless number of lessons you learn from. And similar to this, the seerah. Yani I can bring to you how many times you read the story of Uhud, how many times you read the story of Badr, the story of the Hijrah. And every time you read it, wow, I didn't know that, I didn't think about this before. You know, there is always new things to discover. So this verse, also an invitation for us to think about the Prophet ﷺ's life. Okay? And also, in this enough. Al-Asr, all these meanings are acceptable. We don't have to choose one. And that's something of the uniqueness of the Quran. هذا من عظمة القرآن. That it carries so many meanings. And they complement one another. So now, wal-Asr. Allah swear by that. And I remember, then Allah said after that, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Mankind in constant losses. You're constantly losing. Losing what? Time. That's one of the strongest interpretations is the time. He's constantly losing time. يقول الرازي, you are like the one who's selling ice in the market. In the old days, there is no freezer. Can you imagine you have an ice and you're selling in the market? The longer you stay in the market, the less ice you have, the less profit you make. Because it's melting. You're like that. Your life is like that. You have to take advantage of life. Constantly, every day, every second pass by, you're losing part of you. يقول الحسن البصري يا ابن آدم إنما أنت أيام مجموعة. You are collections of days and nights. Every day pass by, every night pass by. Part of you gone. You know, in animations, they bring this. Sometimes people would turn to ashes and like disappear bit by bit until they completely. Can you imagine yourself like that? Every day goes by, a little bit of you disappear. You know, until one day you have nothing. فتفضي بك الأيام في بعض مرها إلى ساعة لا ساعة لك بعدها. Days are carrying you to a moment because you don't have any extra moment after that. Losses. Why? Because you're not going to be, most people don't take advantage of time. And most people during their time in this life, they don't do what's been obligated to do. They don't do what they've been supposed to be doing. They committed sin, they became distracted, blah, blah, blah. That's the nature of life. So constantly we're losing. That's why in the Day of Judgment, it's called, one of the days of its name is the Day of Regret. And Nadama. Why? The good doers regret, and the wrongdoer regret. الصالحين يندمون والطالحين المسيئين يندمون. Al-Muhsin, the good doer, regret that he didn't do more. And the wrongdoer regret that he did not do good. And did not. Everybody regret. Constant losses. Except. Also, في فائدة. Since we have a mixed audience, this فائدة أصولية. This is an علم أصول الفقه. And it has to do with Arabic language. And this, only the Hanabila mention it. Even though it is linguistically correct. You know the concept of exception. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make a statement, then He made an exception of it. Or when you make a statement and you make an exception. So for example, all the students enter the classroom except one. Okay? In Arabic language, when you make that exception, pay attention. Because see how this is help you to reflect. يقول الإمام أحمد عند الحنابلة الإمام أحمد وغيره يقولون أن الاستثناء في العدد لا يكون إلا بما هو أكثر من النصف أقل من النصف. يعني في اللغة لا يصح أن تستثني بالنصف أو أكثر. In Arabic language, when you make an exception about something that you can count, it has to be less than 50%. Yani I cannot say I have 10 students all enter the classroom except 5. In Arabic language, that person doesn't know how to speak. Or except, 6. It has to be less than 5. So the one who entered the class has to be less than 5. Okay? In Arabic language. That means when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, everyone in losses except, that means the one who made the exception was made for them less than what? 50% of people. So that means the majority of people will be in losses. Only less than 50% will make it. Less than 50% will not be among the losers. What this make you, when you know this fact, make you now what? Curious. How can I be among the one? That means surviving chance is less than 50%. How can I ensure that I'm among the minority or the few who gonna pass? That make you more curious, more committed to know if you be left for yourself, you're not gonna make it. So now what is that required for me to make sure that I pass? And it's serious. That means you have to put an extra effort to survive. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Except those people who have these 4 qualities. So that means the people who will have these 4 qualities are not the majority of people, of mankind. Guess what? The people who fulfill these 4 qualities fully are very few, even among the survivors. وعندنا في القرآن والسنة عموما very beautiful concept that things are levels. The more you fulfill the conditions, the more you receive from the reward. Allah says, for example, الذين آمنوا ولم يلبسوا إيمانهم بظلم أولئك لهم الأمن وهم مهتدون. Those who have faith and do not commit any form of shirk, Allah will grant them 2 things, safety and guidance. The more faith you have, the more away you are from shirk, the more safety and security and guidance you receive. Less faith, less safety and security. You understand? So based on how much you fulfill that condition, you will receive the reward. You understand? You have Iman, you go to Jannah. More Iman, higher level in Jannah. Less Iman, lower level in Jannah. You make dhikr, you enter Jannah fast. The more dhikr you do, the faster you get. And so forth. So here, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, you need to know that these 4 things have many various levels. And based on how much you fulfill each one of these 4 areas, that's how much you will be successful. And how much you will be protected from losses. So that's an invitation for you to aim what? To aim what? High. As they say, shoot for the moon. Because if you miss, you're going to land in one of the stars. Let me know what time is Maghrib. What time is Adhan al-Maghrib? 8:15. Oh my God, we're still in the first verse. طيب. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. Al-Iman, faith, is to believe in Allah, is to worship Allah, is to submit yourself to Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, Al-Islam is about submitting, is not about knowing. The Satan knows Allah. Ash-Shaytan, he knows Allah. He knows Allah. Knowing is not a problem. Abu Talib knows Allah. He loves Allah. He loves Muhammad. He knows that Muhammad is a messenger. He knows Islam is the best religion. All this known to Abu Talib. Abu Talib is a kafir, mushrik, khalid mukhallad fi nar. He will be forever in hellfire. He never became a Muslim. He knows all this. He knows Allah. He knows Muhammad is a messenger. He loves Muhammad. He knows that this is the best religion. He said that. He stated that. وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُ بِأَنَّ خَيْرَ أَدْيَانِ الْبَرِيَّةِ دِينَ مُحَمَّدٍ. I know that the best religion is the religion of Muhammad. I know that you are absolutely truthful, Ya Muhammad. But he never submitted himself. مَا أَسْلَمَ لِلَّهِ. Iman, faith, and deen is not, it is, يقول ابن القيم رحمه الله, the Muslim and the kafir, they might be similar in areas like husn al-khuluq, like good manners, social help. You know, there are some non-Muslims are more generous than some Muslims. They help, they celebrate, they protest. I never in my life, يعني, and until today, I don't know about you guys, but until today, nothing shook me to the core more than the sergeant who burned himself in front of the Israeli council in embassy in DC. There is nothing I have seen in my life. I don't know if you ever seen that video. I don't advise you to read, but nothing I have seen in my life like this. He did not even scream. He was standing and saying with a very, very, firm voice. He's somebody willing to sacrifice his life for something that he believed in. It's unbelievable. Wallahi, no matter what you say, that's just unbelievable. That's unshakable. It reminded me of the story of the ghulam, that in the trench, the story of the people of the trench. When the young boy said, if you want to kill me, crucify me in that tree and say Bismillah in the name of the Lord of the boy, and I will die. And he shot him to the heart and he killed him. So firm. Even though what he did Islamically is not correct, but it's what I'm saying is the commitment. What commitment more than that for a good cause, for a noble cause? People generous. Ya Aisha, Ya Rasulullah, Adi ibn Hatim. He is Ibn Jad'an. And she mentioned also, some of these generous, Hatim ibn Adi, the generous man, the one who donated so much money, he helped so many people. Ya Rasulullah, all this donation, all this good that you give, will help him in the day of judgment? He said, no, Ya Aisha, will never help him. وَقَدِمْنَا إِلَى مَا عَمِلُوا مِنْ عَمَلٍ فَجَعَلْنَاهُ هَبَاءً مَنْثُورًا. نبر قال إنه لم يقل يوما قط اللهم اغفر لي خطيئتي يوم الدين. Because he never submit himself. So al-iman, a faith, our deen, just make sure that this is settled in your heart. If this is the only thing you walk away today. Al-iman, faith, is to submit yourself to Allah. One of the most strange statements I ever heard in my life when I came to the United States, the concept of people tell me, is he a practicing Muslim? What that means, practicing Muslim? Never heard that statement in my life. So I came to America not a young, I came to America old. I was a professor, I was a teacher, I wasn't a professor, but I was a lecturer at that time in universities in Saudi Arabia before I came. I'm a master's, I'm like, I have kids and family. I've been doing this for decades. And somebody told me, first time in my life, you hear this, a non-practicing Muslim. I said, what that means, non-practicing Muslim? If you mean he doesn't practice everything in the religion, who does? Oh, don't practice, what exactly this phrase means? If you mean that there is some Muslim who never practiced anything in Islam, the only scenario where a Muslim call himself Muslim and he doesn't practice anything in Islam, only one scenario exists. Only one scenario exists. To say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Boom, you die. The second you say, you finish it, you die. You got a heart attack and you die. That's die without practice. But other than that, it's impossible. You have to practice something. What kind of religion is that? Do you think we're Christian? We just believe Jesus is Savior and that's it. Khalas, I'm done. Oh, Allah is there and I'm done. No, not. I know that Allah, the kuffar of Mecca, they used to say, وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ يَقُولُنَّ اللَّهِ. If you ask them who created the heavens and earth, they will say Allah. They know that. They have no problem with that. But the problem is, أَجَعَلَ الْآلِهَةَ إِلَهًا وَاحِدًا. Do you want us to submit ourselves to only one God? No. Not, I'm going to submit myself to Allah, yes, but also to my culture, to my shuyukh, to my hawa, to my desires. I can't submit myself only to Allah. Islam is about submitting, about ibadah, it's about worshipping Allah. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Those who submit themselves to Allah, those who practice. And the more you submit, the more you practice the religion, the more you survive. And to make that emphasis so clear, he followed by وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and do good. And because of the time, when we say العمل الصالح, two types. Two types. أعمال ظاهرة وأعمال باطنة. العمل in Arabic language, it means the action of the hearts and the limbs. بخلاف كلمة الفعل. الفعل يتعلق بالأفعال الجوارح ليس بأعمال القلوب. العمل عملوا الصالحات, it means the action of the heart and the limbs. So make sure that you care about both. You have to care about your heart as much as you care about your practice. What do I mean by the heart? Who you really heart love the most, fear the most, respect the most, honor the most. It doesn't matter how much you tell me you love Allah, you trust Allah, and in actions, your heart is not really there. How much your heart have tranquility and faith and safety and love for Allah? How much you fear Allah? Listen to what Ibn Abbas said. When a thief go to steal from a house, stealing is a minor sin or a major sin? I hope you guys understand. It's a major sin. Stealing is a major sin. A major sin in Islam. That's why this beautiful body of ours, it will be punished if you steal. In a very severe way too. The stealing is a major sin. This is what Ibn Abbas said. Ibn Abbas, when the thief stealing and the wind come and move the curtain and a sound, happen a sound in the house, and the thief gets scared, that fear in his heart is worse than stealing. Why that fear? Because he's afraid that what? The household or the person who lived in the house either came from outside or wake up so he's afraid of the person. That means he's afraid of the creation more than the creator. He said that in itself worse than the sin of stealing. Because that's the heart. That's why when some people said, Alhamdulillah, I'm not hypocrite. What that means? He said, I make my sin openly. I tell the whole world. No, Habibi. It's not about hypocrisy. That's about respecting Allah and I don't care. Ya Allah, I make it in front of everybody. No. You know what? I make the sin and personal and Allah may cover me and I'm ashamed of it. But if I don't have shame of it, that's another level of sin. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. So the heart, the action of the heart, the action of the limbs. And don't underestimate the action of the limbs. Make sure that you, every time there is an opportunity to do good, do. Because every time you do one good, Allah multiply it to 10 to 500 to more. And every sin is one sin. So you have 1 to 10 ratio. 1 to 700 for some people. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من حسن إسلامه, those who perfect their Islam, the reward every time start from 700. يقول ابن عمر, every good deeds you do start with 10 except as-sadaqah. It start from 700. Every time you pass by this, by the door, and you can give $1, give. Every time you see an opportunity to give a fundraising, give $5, $1. Don't let it go. Make sure that there is something good you have time to make 2 rak'ah, to read 2 verses, to say subhanallah, alhamdulillah, say it. You know, a shaitan, if he has the choice between 2 things, make you do a sin or make you leave a good deed, he will make you leave the good deeds over making the sin. Why? You make a sin, that's one sin. You make tawbah and istighfar, Allah erase it for you. But you don't do a good deeds, you miss the opportunity to make 10 good deeds. Stop here. We will, after Salat al-Maghrib, if you guys don't mind, we will quickly go over the last 2. Because the last 2 has an incredible meaning. You see how Al-Asr has so many meanings? Also, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ has an amazing, interesting meanings as well that we'll learn from the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and how they interpret it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who reflect upon the Quran, benefit from the Quran. Also, we'll open the floor for question and answer, inshallah, if we have time. Just for 15 minutes, inshallah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.